Hello everybody, welcome to a Vintage Cube video that is not a traditional Vintage Cube draft. We're going to be going through all of the changes for the upcoming cycle that actually comes out today, so I'll probably be posting this a day or two later. There's a bunch of changes that I think are overall pretty good, so I'll just be going through each individual change, talking about whether I like it or not and why. I guess before we go in, I'll say the sort of macro changes they're making are they're adding two new archetypes. So one is a lands matter archetype, so they're bringing in like Scape Shift and Valakut and stuff like that. And then the second combo that they're bringing in is the Doomsday Thassa's Oracle combo. So you exile your entire deck and then play Thassa's Oracle and win. So we'll get to those as we go through. I think they're both interesting additions. I'm a little skeptical of both, especially the Doomsday one, but I love that they're trying it, and we'll see. And if it is either annoying to play against or underpowered or whatever, obviously they can go back. So without further ado, we'll jump in. So we'll be doing like an A to F. I'm gonna no grade inflation here. C is average. I think a C is a neutral change that I don't have strong feelings about. So first, Adonto Vanguard for Seasoned Hallowblade. This is a kind of funny switch. They're both 3/1s that are hard to kill. I guess I'll give it a C plus. They have their design comments here. Like you can read these if you want. I'm not gonna read them, but like yeah, C plus, solid. They're both basically the same card. This has a little bit of like overlap with Black White Reanimator, which is kind of cool. So C plus, but very neutral change. Next, we're cutting Armageddon, RIP, for Restless Bivouac, which is a manland, and I like this change. I think Armageddon is solid, or it's like can be powerful, but it's very frustrating in my opinion. I hate playing against it. I don't really enjoy playing with it either. And I love mana lands and mana fixing and whatnot, so I'm happy with this overall. I'll give it a B. It's kind of a weird shift though because these cards are very not similar. These are basically the same. These are totally different. So B. Yeah. Next we got Boonbringer Valkyrie, which is basically Baneslayer Angel with Upside, out for Sky Sovereign Console Flagship. I should note another archetype there. Well, actually, yeah, there's two other archetypes they're trying to support a little bit more. One is 5-color aggro, and one is Artifact aggro, kind of interestingly. This is like one of the top end pieces for the new Artifact aggro deck. I think it's solid. I've never been super high on this card. It's not really one I'm thrilled to main deck typically. I play it in the sideboard against mono red, but I like this change. I'll give it a B. Sky Sovereign is a kind of cool card that does a lot, being able to deal 3 damage to creatures or planeswalkers and be 6/5 flyer. Like I also just think vehicles are kind of a cool card type. Next, Elesh Norn out for Nettlecyst, and I like this one a lot. I'm going to give this one a B+. Elesh Norn is a card that I have not really liked for a while. It's just like an okay sideboard card, like as a Reanimator target, but white decks don't really want it, and Reanimator decks aren't thrilled with it either. Whereas Nettlecyst is sweet. Very powerful card. I love that you could like have a mono white artifact aggro deck with like Stoneforge, or just be like mono blue artifacts and whatnot. Then Elspeth Sun's Champion out for Heart of Kiran. Heart of Kiran, which is not loading, is a 4/4 flying trample. Or, oh, there we go. Flying Vigilance, sorry. I don't really love this one. I like Heart of Kiran. I think this is a cool card, and I'm happy that it's in the format, but I'm sad to see Elspeth go. I think I'm going to give this one basically a C. Like, great addition, but bad cut. This card is expensive, for sure, but I really like it. And they say the traditional control model has declined, but that has not really been my experience. I've had basically just as much success with traditional control. And I just love Elspeth. I think it's super powerful. She's just great. So I'm a little bit sad. Maybe I'll give it a C minus. But I do think Heart of Kiran is a good addition. Next, Ephemerate is coming out for Samwise the Stout-Hearted. And I like this one. Solid B. Ephemerate is pretty narrow. Like it can get there, and it's very good when it is good. But I think it's like a little bit too narrow, and not a lot of decks want it. Whereas Samwise is just a sweet card. Well designed. I kind of wish there was more Ring Temptu stuff because the first level of the Ring Temptu is kind of the worst. Like when you get to level 2 and you can start looting, that's where it actually helps you. But even without the Ring Temptu part, just a 2/1 flash that can return a fetch land or a creature that died in combat is cool. Next, Iona got cut for Patchwork Automaton. Another one that's kind of weird because these are just so different, but I'll give it a B, I guess. Iona isn't a reanimation spell that I liked a lot. I think it's actually one of the best in a lot of matchups. With that being said, they're sort of phasing out monocolored decks. They're really encouraging more fixing these days. So Iona is a little bit less than good than she used to be, and also it's like can be frustrating. I think it's actually kind of fun to try and like get around it. Like, oh, I'm gonna play like Dam as my board sweeper, and they are gonna name white, and then I can play my black card, or like try and like deal some damage to it in combat, then kill it with Dismember. Like there is some interesting counterplay against this, but like Patchwork Automaton is a cool addition. I'll give it a B. A lot of B's here. And like, yeah, there's a few changes I'm genuinely excited about. But overall, I think I'll probably give the overall changes B. Now we have Karmic Guide out for Timeless Dragon. This is actually a better one. I'll give this one an A minus, I think. Karmic Guide is not a card that I've been high on for a long time. And then Timeless Dragon is sweet. Like, good piece of mana fixing early that gives you value late, and like, nice in a control deck or mid-range deck. Just a cool card. Then Leonin Relic Order coming out for Portable Hole. I don't love this one. I'm gonna give this one like a C minus or D plus. Like like Relic Order a lot. It's a little bit hard to cast, but it's very powerful and just interesting. Portable Hole is like, it is solid. It kills a Mox, which is not bad. So maybe I'm not mad at the addition of this, but White already has like March of Otherworldly Light and Prismatic Ending, and I think Leonin Relic Order is a little bit more interesting, but not a bad change. Recruiter of the Guard out for Ranger Captain of Eos. I'm gonna give this one, I guess, a C plus. I really like Recruiter of the Guard. Cool card. It really lets you find your like Palace Jailer type stuff. It was better when you were playing Splinter Twin, which they no longer support. But Ranger Captain is cool. It does a lot of stuff. Like, it's a more relevant body. It like incentivizes you to like pick up some 1-drops. It's just like a cool card overall. So I like this change mildly. Now we have Restoration Angel coming out for Archangel Avacyn. I'm going to give this one a D. Like, Archangel Avacyn is fine, but I like Restoration Angel a lot more. There's a lot more just, like, build around potential. You can, like, play it with, like, Ranger Captain, with the deceased Leonin Relic Order. I think Into the Battlefield effects are interesting, and I like this a little bit more than Archangel Avacyn, although this big angel is definitely powerful. So, yeah, I'll give that a D. Now, wedding announcement for is coming in for Spectral Procession. I think that wedding announcement is definitely stronger. I like Spectral Procession, especially in Skull Clamp decks, but this is probably a good change. Maybe like a C plus. Yeah, it's an interesting card. There's a lot going on too, which is good and bad, but I think it's good to have more like nuanced cards in Vintage Cube overall. Then Student of Warfare got the Axe for Kythian. I'll give this one a C plus. I like Student of Warfare a lot. It's a great mana sink in the late game, and it's not too hard to get to an early 3-3 with First Strike that can dominate the board in the early game. Kythian is cool, though. I think Kythian is an interesting and powerful card. I like having another 2-power 1-drop in white decks, so you can be a bit more aggressive. There's a lot of white 1-drops, but there's actually not that many powerful ones. There's like, Mother of Runes, Giver of Runes. Like, Usher of the Fallen is one of the only two ones for 1 mana. So yeah, Kythian's great. Then Sun Titan for Shadow Spear. They're limiting the number of white cards in the format, which is kind of interesting. I think this is a good change. Shadow Spear is not a card that I think is a super high pickup, but it's not bad in an Urza Saga deck. And Sun Titan is like pretty unplayable in almost any deck. I've seen it get there, but it's pretty rare. So I'll give this like a B plus. Not because I think Shadow Spear is great. Every rating is like a combination of how good it is to add this versus how good it is to, or how bad it is to cut this. So this is one where it's like good grade, but more because the outgoing card is underpowered than because the incoming card is great. Now, Tide Taker out for Luminarch Aspirant. This one I like a lot. I'm going to give this one like a B+. I don't think Tide Taker is that good. It's okay in some matchups, but Luminarch Aspirant is more powerful and more interesting, gives you some decisions, just a cool card. And the dream is just turn 1 Esper Sentinel, turn 2 Luminarch Aspirant. Then basically you get to draw a card every time they play instants and sorceries, or non-creature spells. Now, Wall of Omens out for Staff of the Storyteller. If they're cutting Resto, I get why Wall will become worse. I think Wall of Omens is fine. It's good in blue-eye control specifically, but Staff of the Storyteller is cooler. I'll actually give this like an A- even. I think Staff of the Storyteller is pretty great. On its own, it's fine, and then it can become pretty crazy in like a value deck with a lot of tokens. So, cool card. Alright, on to blue. Baral getting the cut for Hedron Crab. And this is a kind of weird one. I don't love Mill in the format. They used to have Ashiok and then they cut it, largely for the reason that it's just like not fun to play against Mill. And I kind of feel like this is the same. Like, if I just get milled for 6 on the second turn, it's fine, but like that's not a great way for games to go. They mentioned that it's a combo Escape Shift, and I think that's cool. I guess these like all-in combos that are solid, but just playing this in like a blue-black control deck and just like milling your opponent with fetch land is not particularly fun to play against for me, so I don't love that. With that being said, I don't think Baral is very good, although this art is pretty intense. That does not look like a dude with 1 power. But yeah, I'm going to give this a C because I don't like the card that's coming in or the card that's coming out. Yeah. Now we have Consider, getting cut for Thought Scour. I guess I'll give this one a C+. They're both pretty similar. This one does not give you a decision, but it does enable more graveyard stuff, and I guess that's cool. So, yeah, C+. Some of these changes, like, when the cards are very similar, it's going to be a little bit less of a review, because, like, okay, like, you can sort of see the differences here. Alright, here we have Deceiver Exarch versus Hullbreacher. And this is a weird one. Hullbreacher is a polarizing card. It's extremely powerful. It just, like, completely wins the game sometimes out of nowhere. Splashable, good body. It's at its best with draw sevens. Yeah, it's hard to say. I think this card is very good. They mentioned here they think that blue needs the power level bump, which is kind of crazy. That never would have happened back in the day. Oh, wait, no, they don't say it here, actually. But, yeah. Oh, wait, I was looking the wrong thing. Yeah, Power Boost, not a comment you had heard about in the past. I think I like the Hullbreacher, though. I think I'm happy that it's in the format. We'll try it. My general philosophy of Vintage Cube is play the broken cards, like, allow them. So some people might not like this card, but I think it's cool. With that being said, I'm sad to see Deceiver Exarch go. This is one where I'll separate the thing, because I give this like an F, honestly. I love the twin combo, but I give the addition of this an A, so it comes out to, like, I guess a C. Yeah, Hullbreacher's great. Pick it highly. Now, Dreamhole's out for Show and Tell. Kind of a funny one. They both, like, need a lot to go right, but can be very good. I guess I'll give this one a C minus. I think Dreamholes is a little bit cooler than Show and Tell, but Show and Tell is iconic. It's fine for it to be here. All right, Fact or Fiction in for Lose Focus. I think that this is probably I think Fact or Fiction is great, honestly. It's a little slow. Spending 4 mana to not impact the board is not amazing. But with that being said, it is just like it's very powerful. It gives you a lot of cards. Splashable. I like this card a lot. I love you can play like a base black-white deck and splash this for a bit of card draw. So I'll be sad to see it go. 2 mana counter magic is great, of course. This card will be a nice addition. It probably will make blue slightly better just because having a lot of 2 mana counter magic, is great. But I'm still kind of sad to see this go, so I'll give it a C minus. Now we have Hullbreacher Horror coming out for Sai Master Thopterist, and I like this. Probably B plus even. Hullbreacher Horror is not amazing. I don't think this card is great. It's like what deck wants it? Maybe Reanimator, maybe Control, but it's not. It's in the same bucket as Elesh Norn, where like it's okay in both, but it's not really what you want in either. Whereas Sai is actually a cool card with a lot of play around stuff. Like it's great in heavy artifact decks, good card draw engine. It also lets you get rid of like, Mana Crypt or whatever, maybe the One Ring in the late game. Now, Opposition getting cut for Tezzeret the Seeker. Opposition is a card that is interesting. When I first started playing Vintage Cube, it was considered just totally broken, and for a long time it's been not broken. It can get there, and it's kind of interesting when it does, especially when it's like a weird version. Like with Sai, you play like mono blue, Sai, creature, artifact, tap your opposition, stuff with opposition.tech. But Tezzeret the Seeker is cool. I like this card a lot. I think it's pretty good. It was in the format for a long time without being great, but they've added a lot more artifacts that it works with. So I think I'm happy about this change overall. I'll give it a B. Now Pestermite out for True Name Nemesis. True Name is better in a world with the Initiative and the Monarch. So I think this is a solid addition. It lets blue have a bit more like powerful threats to play to the board. There's like it blocks well, it attacks planeswalkers. It's just some people think it's very frustrating to play against. I don't really agree. Like, okay, it'll kill you in 7 turns. So hopefully you can beat a 3-1. So I thought like this change. Again, I'm sad to see Pestermite go, but I'm happy to see this in the format. So I guess I'll give it like a B minus. Phantasmal Image out for Thassa's Oracle. This is one where it's hard to evaluate because I just don't know how the Doomsday combo will play. I actually like Phantasmal Image. I think it's cool that base blue decks can get a good way to deal with creatures. Like when your opponent plays Primeval Titan and you're able to copy it for 2 mana, that's really cool. So I'm kind of sad to see this go, and I'm a little skeptical of the Doomsday combo. So I'm going to give this like a D plus, if that's even a grade, but with a caveat that we'll see. I might like this Thassa's Oracle combo more than I'm expecting, so yeah, we'll see. Now, Sower of Temptation out for Jace. This is sort of fun. It's like similar. Like these are both blue creatures that are good against opposing big creatures, and they cut them both for like this combo. So this lets you, these both mean you win if you have no cards in your deck, essentially. I like this addition a little bit more because Jace is like an okay card on its own, whereas Thassa's Oracle just does nothing on its own. So, and I also like so less than Phantasmal Image. So, give this one a D plus. I'll give this one a B plus, maybe a B. Then Suspicious Stowaway out from Malcolm. This is interesting. They've played around a lot with different looters in the past, and I do think Suspicious Stowaway is great. It's not that uncommon, especially if you go like turn 1 Landmark Stowaway. They don't have a 1-drop, then you could have a 2/1 unblockable that's drawing you a card every turn. It's like a better Ragavan. But Malcolm is sweet too. There's a lot of interesting play here, and the flash is nice. I did actually get to level 4 with this in the last Vintage Cube iteration, and got to cast a Fury for free, which was pretty satisfying. So I like this change. I'll give it a B. Stowaway is great, but I think Malcolm is a little bit better, probably, and definitely more interesting. Svelune of Sea and Sky, which is a card I was never too high on for Unctus. Also a card that I think will not be amazing, but buffing your artifact creatures is kind of interesting. So I'll give this a B. We'll see. I don't know exactly how powerful this card is. It lets you like loot and buffs your creatures, so maybe that's a lot of value. So yeah, solid B, maybe even B plus. Thirst for Discovery or Search the Count's Castle. Out for Intuition. This is another one that I think is cool. I'll give it like a B. I think Thirst for Discovery is fine, but it's better the more basic land you have, and I like incentivizing having interesting mana bases. And then this is just cool. So you pick 3 cards, they get 1. Interesting little mind games here. Cards that present unique and complex decisions like this are cool. So let's encourage this and give it a B plus. Torrential Gearhulk out for Kappa Cannoneer. I'll give this one a B. Torrential Gearhulk is not great in my opinion. It's okay with like some really spicy stuff, but I think Kappa Cannoneer is way better, and like also just a cool card. I like that they're leaning into the artifact stuff a little bit. Plus it's a Turtle Warrior. Now we have Treasure Cruise coming out for Gush. This is one that I don't love. I'm gonna give this one a D. So they say it's key for the Doomsday combo, so maybe like there's some things that go on with this, but it's not that powerful of a card unless you have a very specific build for it. And Treasure Cruise is actually a good card. I like Treasure Cruise. I like incentivizing you to play like a lot of cheap stuff. They also like brought in Thought Scour, which is great with Cruise. So no, I don't love this, but we'll see. Gush may overperform. Now we have Venser out for Aether Spellbomb. I like Venser. It's very, very good with Karakas. It's also good with Restoration Angel, which they're cutting. But I like Aether Spellbomb a lot too. So I'll give this like a C+, I guess. Then we have Bazaar of Baghdad out for Currency Converter. And Bazaar is like, I'm a little sad to see it go, but I actually love Currency Converter. I'm going to give this an A. Maybe an A-, but I think A. Like, it really overperformed for me in the last format. It's powerful, it's interesting. There's a lot more just like incidental discard than you realize. Like cycling like Oliphant to find a land and getting like your Currency Converter and making a 2/2 is like pretty sweet. It's also very good at draw 7. It's good against opposing Hymn to Torox. Good enabler and reanimator, but also just good in pretty much any deck. So love this card. Very cool design. Good addition. Bitter Blossom out for Valky. I think Bitter Blossom was not great. It was an okay sideboard card in some matchups, but really not amazing. And Valky is also not amazing, but a little bit more interesting, so C+, I guess. Now we have Call of the Ring out for Doomsday. So Call of the Ring is a card that I wanted to be good, and I got there like once or twice, but having to pay a bunch of life is not great. Doomsday is interesting. Like, it's hard to evaluate this. I think I'm happy they're trying it. I know I gave the Thassa's Oracle a bad grade, so maybe it's inconsistent to give this a good grade, but like, I guess I'll give it like a B. We'll see. I'm not going to be first picking this anytime soon, but I think like you could get a cool Doomsday deck if you got some redundancy with like Mystical Tutor. Alright, Custodial Lich out for Dreams of Steel and Oil. Intense name. I liked Custodial Lich a little bit, honestly. I thought it was a cool card. And I like incentivizing black to like play to the board and attack and have creatures. Dreams of Steel and Oil is good though. I think this is definitely an upgrade for power level. 1 mana making them discard an artifact is great. Like you can just nab their Black Lotus or something, and that's pretty insane. So I'm happy with this exchange, or with this trade. I'll give it like a B minus. Infernal Grasp out for Bitter Triumph. I guess like A, kind of. I mean, I think this is definitely a better card. They're so similar that it's like I don't want to overstate how hyped I am about this because it's not that big of a change, but like I think it's definitely an improvement. Better Triumph is great. It's cool. It's like a good design. I like having ways to kill planeswalkers. So like A. Jadar. A just because one is strictly better basically, and then some of the other changes like in this first trade like I don't think either one's strictly better necessarily, but in this case like it is pretty much just better in my opinion. Now we have Jadar out for Turok. Jadar is kind of underpowered. I'll give this a B. Turok is not a card that I'll typically want to main deck, I think, in most decks at least, but it's good against white decks and it's good against control decks, so it's worth playing. Triple black can be tough to kick, but that's alright. Now we have Kitesail Freebooter out for Deep Cavern Bat. I'll give this like a B, B+. Deep Cavern Bat is definitely a lot better. You lose a point of toughness, but in every other way, Deep Cavern Bat is superior. Then Liliana the Last Hope coming out for Contagion. It's kind of interesting. It's like 0 mana, kill 2 small creatures, essentially. I'll give it like a C+, I guess. Liliana was, I don't know, I like Planeswalkers. Contagion is like a little bit more broken. It does seem like it'll kind of crush certain decks, and maybe that's good. I don't know. But yeah, C+, kind of neutral in this change. Massacre Worm out for Massacre Girl. I don't really get this. Like this, they basically both kill a bunch of creatures, and then they have like pretty big bodies, similar bodies. Massacre Worm has this dealing 2 damage thing, which I think is actually cool. I really like that Massacre Worm can deal tons of damage against token decks. So I'm gonna give this one a D. I think that like this end of the battlefield effect is more interesting, but I love the static of like hitting your opponent when their creatures die. So I think yeah, D. I don't love this change. We'll see. This might be like, well yeah we'll see, but don't love it. Now we have Murderous Rider leaving for Virtue of Persistence. It's kind of an interesting one. They're both like a mediocre removal spell alternated with like an underpowered card. This is like I actually like this card a lot. I like that it can kill planeswalkers, but they did just bring in the Bitter Triumph, so maybe it's fine. Virtue of Persistence is a card that I do kind of like. You don't want to play this in the hardcore Reanimator decks typically. It's more of just like a value card in a control deck. I'll give it like a C+. I think it's fine. So now we have Una's Prowler out for Reign of Filth. Una's Prowler is not a card that I love. It's good with like Fallen Shinobi. I mean, obviously it can be good in Reanimator decks sometimes, but I think Reign of Filth is a little bit more interesting. I think I'll give this like a C+. Hard to say though, because they are very different. Wishclaw Talisman coming out from Beseech the Mirror. I like this change. B+. Beseech is a little bit more interesting. There's a lot going on here. I never thought the Talisman was great. It can be good, but yeah, this is, I think this is a little bit more interesting. Now we have Bitter Reunion getting the axe for Inti. Inti is a lot better, to be honest. I think Bitter Reunion is solid. I do like this card, but Inti is a lot more versatile. It just, like, it attacks with a lot of damage, it draws cards, it's almost like a Lelia in that regard, and then it's also a discard enabler for Reanimator. A little bit worse for, like, all-in Black-Red Reanimator, but a cool card with a lot of interesting applications. Also, like, does have some random incidental value. Like, it's another card that's good with, like, land cyclers or whatever. So, honestly, B+. I think this is a great change. Maybe even A-. Char out for Flame Slash. I'll give this one like a B. Flame Slash is, I think, better. Char it goes to the face, which is relevant, but I like low curves, and I think Flame Slash will be better most of the time. Desperate Ritual for Birgi. B. I don't think either one's great, but Birgi is like a ritual that does more stuff too. So, yeah, we'll give it a B. Direfleet Daredevil cut for Earthshaker Kenra. This is a kind of weird one. I actually think Direfleet Daredevil is a good vintage cube card where it like scales up with the power level of the format. It feels great to flash back there, Time Walk or whatever. But also Earthshaker Kenra is much better as a normal card. Like Direfleet Daredevil has higher highs, but Earthshaker Kenra will be more consistent. I guess I'll give it like a C-, honestly. I will miss the Direfleet Daredevil, but the average mono red deck will be happy about this. Now this is a controversial one. Goblin Guide for Soulscar Mage. I don't really get this. I mean, this is basically saying like, okay, the red decks are becoming a little bit more mid-rangey. This is like the poster child for hyper aggro all-in red, and I think that's like cool to support, to be honest. That's such a big part of Red's ethos. Like, Goblin Guide, I mean, Lightning Bolt is the most iconic red card, but to me, Goblin Guide is like up there for number two. Like that, like all in aggression. So I'm kind of sad about this. I do think Soulscar Mage is powerful and good. I also just wish they had more red one drops in general. So like, I would prefer to see like maybe they just cut Ritual and don't bring in Berkey, but bring in Soulscar Mage. So I'm gonna give this a D because I think I'm sad to see this card go. Now we have Rabblemaster coming out for Najeela. This is an interesting one. I'll give it a C minus. Rabblemaster is really good. I like Rabblemaster a lot. Najeela is interesting too. It's like Rabblemaster vibes, kind of. Another 2/2 that makes 1/1 every turn. And then has this 5-mana ability. And I do like incentivizing 5-color decks and just like crazy lands. I mean, if you watch my channel, you know I love drafting lands. And so we'll see. Maybe this ability is just like pretty epic if you can like pull it off, give everything trample, lifelink, and haste, and all that. All right, it's not a C minus anymore. C plus. We'll see. The C plus. Now Imperial Recruiter out for Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Imperial Recruiter is typically worse than Recruiter of the Guard. Red decks are just a little bit less interested in a 3-mana value play that doesn't really impact the board. And I actually like this card a lot, so I'll give this like a solid B, B plus. Phyrexian Dragon Engine is great. Incinerate out for Tribal Flames, B. Incinerate is obviously less generic, or like sort of more versatile, and this is higher power level, but again, 5 colors cool, let's incentivize it. Kiki-Jiki out for Trumpet and Carnosaur. R.I.P. man, I'll miss ya. Want to see a neat trick? I do, but I will not this Vintage Cube season. Trumpet and Carnosaur is cool though, it's a good card, good like Reanimator card, good mid-range card, flexible. Discover 5 is basically like Cascade 5. I think this is a great card. So C because it's a plus exit and an A plus entrance. Kumano faces Kakazan, leaving for Voldaren Epicure. I'll give this one like a C also, maybe C minus. Like this is a cool card. It can be good. There's some artifact synergies with it. It's good in Reanimator. This is much better in a mono red deck though, and it's satisfying too. I just like turn 1 Kumano, turn 2 you just drop like Thalia Guardian Thraben is a 3/2 with first strike. It just like feels good, and then it starts beating down. So I'm a little. This card was both more powerful and more fun than I was expecting it to be. Light up the stage out for Questing Druid. A. I love this exchange. Questing Druid is awesome, really, really powerful, really fun. Incentivizes red green, which is a cool color combination. Light up the stage was okay in some decks and like Goblin Guide decks, basically, but I think Questing Druid is better. Like, I would not even main deck this in a lot of red decks, even when I did have a low curve. Mana Flare out for Goblin Engineer. B. Mana Flare's not a card that I think is great. You can get there with some blue-red High Tide Storm decks, but not normally a good card. And Goblin Engineer is sweet. Very good with the Dragon Engine, but also just like a good card in general. Recurring like Black Lotus, you can like set up the Thopter Sword for combo, which we'll get to soon. So cool change, B+. Mind Collapse was decent, but they're bringing Pyrokinesis, and I think I like this better. I'll give it a B. They're similar, they both just like kill creatures, but Pyrokinesis, I mean this one sacks a spell, this one sacks a land, which is like, I don't know, maybe an improvement, but yeah, Pyrokinesis, cool card. It also can kill multiple creatures, so B. Mizzium ordered out for Delayed Blast Fireball. This one's kind of interesting. The Foretell really foretells what you're going to be playing, because I think it's the only card with Foretell in the format, so that removes some of the element of surprise or guesswork or whatever. But interesting card. I guess it's a slight upgrade. I'll give it like a C+. We'll see. This card could be better than I'm expecting, but 2 damage is a lot less than 4 damage. Mizzix's Mastery versus Experimental Synthesizer. I like the change a lot. This is not a card that is usually very good, and so a few people got there with it, and good for them, but like B+. This is a cool card. I like the value that it provides. I like that it incentivizes these like low curve artifact decks. Just a cool card. Nahiri's Warcrafting out for Pyrite Spellbomb. I'll give this one another B. This card was okay for me in some red control decks, but it's like you can't really play it on turn 3 and get a 2-for-1, so usually it's like a pretty late game card. The art is cool with all these swords, but I like Pyrite Spellbomb a lot. Yeah, B. Good addition. They're shedding a lot more one-mana artifacts that actually do something, reasonable. Pia and Kieran Lar out for Brea's Apprentice. Kind of interesting. They're both like dudes that make artifacts and then can sack artifacts to do stuff. I think Brea's Apprentice is probably slightly better and it's cheaper, so I'll give it a B. Pyretic Ritual out for Rite of Flame, like A, I guess, but another one where it's like this is just basically better. Yeah, I think Rite of Flame is, but like I don't want to give it an A because it's also not that exciting, so B. You can go like just turn one, like Rite of Flame 2-drop, which is okay, I guess, but yeah, B. Runaway Steamkin is getting cut for Rada's Firebrand. Kind of an interesting one on a philosophical level because they cut one that incentivizes mono red and brought one in that incentivizes 5-color. I think I like it. I mean, Runaway Steamkin was a cool 2-drop that, actually maybe I don't like it. This lets you do some really cool turns. I've activated this like twice in a turn, like Storm off and just like still attack for 4. Whereas this, like, I mean, it's good in a 5-color deck. It's a 3-1 that can become a 5-3 pretty easily. Yeah, hard to say. I guess I'll give it a C because I like both cards. Splinter Twin out for Valakut Exploration. RIP. I'll miss Twin a lot. But I get it. Like, it's very narrow. This is like also kind of narrow, but not quite to the same extent. It's like a card draw engine for land decks that's especially good when you have like sort of scape shifty type cards. So I think like another situation where I don't like the card that's cut, but I like the addition. So I'll give it like a C plus, I guess. Maybe B minus. Squee out for Gut True Soul Zealot. When you attack, you can sacrifice an artifact or creature and create a 4-1. You don't need to attack with this though, so it can drop and immediately make a 4-1 attacking for your other creature. I like the escape ability of this, being able to use your graveyard. I also like how it works with Goblin Rabble Master, but if they're cutting the Rabble Master, like, sure, my guess is that this will end up being not quite as good, but that's, like, if it can sack a land, then it would be great. But the fact that it has to sack an artifact or a creature, like, there will be cool moments with this, but I don't love the change overall, so I think I'll give it, like, a C minus, or maybe even D plus. I do like Squee. Sulfuric Vortex out for Rampaging Ferocidon. Interesting exchange. Vortex is a lot better against control. Ferocidon is, like, a body, though. I'm going to give it, like, a C, I guess. Maybe C plus. Rampaging Ferocidon is decent. This does like warp the game in a weird way, but a way that I think is kind of interesting. But yeah, C plus. Thundermaw Hellkite out for Embercleave. To be honest, I know a lot of people love Thundermaw. I'm not particularly one of them. I'm happy to see this change. I'll give it like a B. Embercleave is cool, I think. It incentivizes creatures, and yeah, it's just an interesting card. Maybe you can get there with White-Red Stoneforge. Zealous Conscript out for Flametongue Kavu. I'll miss, again, I don't want to be a broken record, I'll miss the twin combo bit, but Flametongue Kavu is cool and good. It's not as good in like all-out mono red decks. That's not a card I really like having as a curve topper, but in more mid-rangey decks, it's great, and they're sort of pushing you towards more mid-rangey decks, so I guess I get it, but yeah, like, hard to say, I guess I'll give it like a C. Arbor Elf for Arboreal Grazer. I hate this cut. I'm okay with you adding Arboreal Grazer. I think it's interesting with like the bounce lands, which we'll get to soon, but like, I really just do not like cutting Arbor Elf. In my opinion, the best thing about green by a lot is their 1-mana accelerants. So cut like anything but 1-mana dorks. So I'm gonna give this like a D minus, to be honest. I'm fine with them bringing in Grazer, but I wish they would just like cut like mid-range creatures or like some of the top end, not 1-to-1 drops. Especially one of these, like, this is a cool one because it incentivizes you to pick up like like the actual blue-green land, like Tropical Island, and then it can make blue mana. Just don't love this change. Birthing Pod is getting cut for Sentinel of the Nameless City. I love Birthing Pod. I think it's so cool when you get there, and it so rarely gets there, and even when it does, it's not even that good. So this probably is an upgrade in terms of power level, but this is a lot less interesting of a card to me, so I think I'm going to give this like a C minus. I don't know. It's better for power level, worse for fun. Do with that what you will. Depends on why you play Vintage Cube. Now you have Deranged Hermit coming out for Neshoba Brawler. weird change, but I kind of like it. During tournament's not a card that I'm super fond of, and its typical best use was with opposition, which is getting cut. So yeah, I think this card's cool too. Shogun Brawler's not bad. So yeah, I'll give this honestly like a B plus. Elder Gargoth, beefy boy, cut for O'Hare Taslim, also beefy boy that like they both do a lot of stuff when they attack, but this one doesn't die to removal, so it's definitely better. I'll give it a B. This isn't like a high pickup, but it can be good. Then Finale of Devastation out for Scapeshift. Whoops. Weird change. They're very different. I don't think Finale was great. I played in some decks, but I was never thrilled with it. Scapeshift though is like it's cool. I guess I like it. I'll give it, especially with Field of the Dead in the format. I'll give it like a B, maybe even B plus. It's gonna be not amazing unless you really get there, but you can really get there. They mentioned a lot of combos here, which are kind of cool. So B, maybe even B plus. Force of Vigor out for Nature's Claim. I'm gonna give this one a C minus. I think Force of Vigor feels a lot more vintage QB. It's like kind of epic when it is really good. Not as main deckable, and Nature's Claim is main deckable, but still, I like Force of Vigor, so yeah, don't love this. Now we have Hornet Queen out for Gruff Triplets, which is kind of weird. It's like comes in, makes 2 copies, so you get 3/3/3s with trample when it comes into play for 6 mana, and then when it dies, you put like another 3 counters on your other one, so then it like turns your other 3/3s into a 6/6 and then into a 12/12, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. This is like actually good. I mean, it's a 6-drop, and I don't know, but it's a very cool card. So I'm gonna give this like a B plus. Hornet Queen was never a card I was thrilled with. Yeah, B plus. Invasion of Ikoria. Not a card that I was thrilled with. Another one of these tutors. Like, Greenstone Zenith is good. Paying 1 extra mana is fine. But this and Finale of Devastation make you pay 2 extra mana, which is quite a bit worse. And Lotus Cobra is cool. I think it's just a good card. Cool art for it here. Very colorful. It's like a 2-drop that, like, I prefer 1-drop accelerants to 2-drop accelerants. So I'd rather like keep Arbral than lose the Cobra. But Cobra is interesting. Now another change that's just like D minus, maybe even F. Sakura Tribe Scout is like maybe an interesting addition. It does have some weird counterplay with like bounce lands and stuff, but like against like you can put in your bounce land to protect your land from strip mine or something, which is cool. But Tree Speaker is great. Sometimes you get wrecked if you level it up and they kill it, but like I just think this card's awesome. It's very good. If you're gonna cut one of the green 1-drops, just cut like Llanowar Elves. Like Draga Tree Speaker is more interesting and more powerful. I do not like it all cutting this card. I've been blown out with it before. I've also blown people out with it, but like that's like part of the interesting play. Like you have to decide. Okay, they played like Mountain and Pass. Do I want to sink 2 mana into this? How important is it to get a level counter on this so I have 4 mana next on or 5 mana on turn 3? Versus playing my 2-drop right now. Like, those decisions are cool and interesting, and I'm sad to see it go. Oath of Druids out for Prismatic Omen. It's kind of interesting. Prismatic Omen is quite bad other than Valakut. I don't see much. I mean, yeah, they mentioned a few other little things here. Oath of Druids is a weird card. It's fun when you're playing it and it sucks when you're not. Like, if you're playing a creature deck and your opponent plays Oath and you're like, well, okay, now I can just never play a creature, and I can never win by not playing a creature. And it's just like, gets to these weird game states where you're just both discarding your hand size and no one's playing any cards, and I don't know. Maybe that's not great. I don't think Prismatic Omen will be that good either, but another cool art. I'll give it like a C. Pretty neutral in this. Regrowth out for Spelunking. This is like Amulet of Vigor that also gives you some extra value. I think it's a cool card. I like this edition. I'll give it a B. I don't think it's going to be that powerful, but it is kind of interesting, and Regrowth is not that good, so yeah, B. Survival of the Fittest coming in or leaving for Once Upon a Time, and I'll give this one a B+. Survival of the Fittest is a card that I've not really liked in that many decks. You can get there, especially if you have like tons of creatures plus like Uro. Could get there in like some reanimator decks, but not a card that I find myself playing that often. And Once Upon a Time is great. I love getting a little bit of card selection for green decks. So yeah, solid change, B plus. Thrun coming out for Tarmogoyf. I'll give this one a B. Thrun's not a card that I love. It's like not great in some matchups and like not fun in the matchups where it is great. At least be on the other side of it for sure. And then Tarmogoyf is like, we'll see. It wasn't that good before, but I think the curves are lower. There's like more artifacts. This is more likely to be pretty beefy. They're also pushing green in a bit more of an aggressive direction, so I think it's a cool addition. I'll give this a B. Utopia Sprawl out for Dryad, the Elysian Grove. Another one that I just hate. Don't cut Utopia Sprawl. Cut any other green cards. Just don't cut the 1-drops. These are what green needs so badly. Dryad is not a card that I love. It can get there if you have the right deck for it, but it's not as explosive as you. It's not like particularly explosive, and it's also not particularly like good of a value play. So yeah, I don't love this. I'll give it like a D. Workshop Warchief out for Wild Nacatl. Sort of a weird one. I thought this card was great at first because I thought you could always blitz it from your graveyard, but you can actually only blitz it from your hand, which makes it a lot worse. So I think this card is not that great. Wild Nacatl, we'll see how good it is. It's like another sort of aggressive domain style card. I think I'll give this a B. Now we have Worldspine Worm out for Astral Dragon. Astral Dragon is kind of sick. You can do some really cool stuff with it. And Worldspine Worm is a card that rarely gets there. There's a lot that has to go right for this card to become good. So I'll give this a B. I don't think this is a high pickup by any means, but there will be some epic moments. Like, at one point I like had this and I was like attacking. I attacked their Teferi Time Raveler with my Teferi Hero of Dominaria token. Like that's just so cool. There's like situations that can only happen with this card. So yeah, interesting card. B plus. Ren and Realmbreaker out for Court of Garenbrig. Court of Garenbrig seems insane to me. Granted, most extra plane creatures, so it's a little bit harder to maintain the monarchy than it used to be, especially because this doesn't, make any creatures like Palace Jailer or whatever. But it's like what? It comes into play, you draw a card at the end of your turn. The next turn, you like put 4 counters on something right off the bat, and then it just doubles more each turn. Like, this snowballs so quickly. And then they mentioned here that it works with Devoted Druid, which is kind of awesome. So, I like this edition, and Bren was not that good, so I'll give this a B+. Soul Herder out for Tamashii. I don't think Soul Herder was ever very good. And I wanted to have good blue-white gold cards, so I'm kind of happy to see it go. I know I mentioned earlier with Restoration Angel that I like flicker effects, but I still think that this is not just a little too underpowered. Weird art though. This thing is huge. It does not look like it should be a 1/1, but whatever. And it's coming Tamashii, which is okay. It's like it's good with Black Lotus. I don't know. It seems like this takes a lot of setup, but it might be better than I'm giving it credit for. And I did like Soul Herder, so I'll give it like a B-. Urza Lord Protector out for Shurikai Genesis Engine. I am a big hater of this card. I think it's fine to cut. I never thought this was very good. Shurikai is not amazing, but it's cool. I think it's solid. Good value engine over the long game. Does a lot of stuff. Crew 8 is just like kind of savage. So I like this change. I'll give it like a B. I'm not going to take this very highly, but yeah, B. They're keeping the Might Stone and Weak Stone, which I just don't agree with. They say it's fine on its own. I've played it in some decks before, but it is not a card that I think is particularly strong. So I think they should cut it personally, but fair enough. If you want to keep it, keep it. The Scarab God coming out for Sunken Ruins. I like the Scarab God. I think this card is pretty powerful in some decks. It used to be a card that I would like first pick, and it's definitely not that anymore. But I think it's solid. With that being said, Sunken Ruins is great. I love fixing. I'll give it like a C+, I guess, because I'm usually going to be happy to see more lands. They also mentioned here that it's like good with Doomsday, which is good because the Doomsday deck needs triple black and triple blue sometimes. Thief of Sanity out for Kaito Shizuki. I think I like Thief of Sanity a little bit more, to be honest. But Kaito is good too. They both do a lot. I'll give it like a C, I guess. The format Kaito I like even more, actually. The one that they had in the Alpha Frog version, I thought that was cool, so I would probably recommend that version. But yeah, see, they're similar. They're both like good value cards. This is a little bit higher upside and worse against removal. So see, getting towards the end, although it's a long list, lots of changes. Assassin's Trophy coming out for Witherbloom Command. I'll give this a B. Assassin's Trophy is fine, pretty good, but like this is a cool card. There's more modal cards, just in general I like. They present you with decisions like timing and which modes to choose. So cool change. B. Fiend Artisan out for Mosswood Dread Knight. I like this change. Fiend Artisan is a card that I've played in some decks, but it's not always amazing. Whereas Mosswood Dread Knight is like a cool value card. It's a little slow, but I like this. Another B. And Talisman of Resistance out for Simic Road Chamber. They cut some of the, so they had the signets for years. They cut the signets for talismans. Now they're cutting some of the talismans. I think only the green ones though, or at least like not all of them. And I think I'm fine with that. Green decks typically have enough mana ramp already. There are some like heavy artifact mana ramp decks like with Upheaval that will be sad to see this go, but Simic Road Chamber is cool. I think I'll give this a B. Vraska Golgari Queen, wow, funny art for this. Coming out for Golgari Raw Farm. Another one where like Vraska's not that amazing. It can be good. Like if it comes in and kills Oko, that's pretty nice. But I think I like this change. Like another B. Funny thing, Vraska had to sacrifice herself this time. Kagla and Didaro coming out for Territorial Kavu. I like this card. I thought it was kind of cool, both as like the discard ability and as the attacking thing, but I think this is probably a better card. Territorial Kavu is interesting and powerful and also presents you with some cool decisions, so I'll give this like a B. Talisman of Impulse out for Rule Turf, like B, same as the one above. Magma Opus out for Fire Ice, B+. Magma Opus is just not that good. There are some combos with it, but like it's not even really worth the effort. Like, well, okay, 4 damage, 4/4, draw 2, it does some stuff, but I think Fire Ice is better and also just a great card. I really like Fire Ice. Talisman of Hierarchy out for a mana land here, not a bounce. Oh no, it's fast land, not a bounce land. Another B. Duretti out for Vile Smasher the Fierce. So this, like, if you play your first spell, it domes your opponent for some damage. I don't love this change, to be honest. I think Duretti is great, very, very powerful card. And Vile Smasher is like, it's okay. I mean, it can be really good, but it's pretty weak to removal. I think this card is not going to be that good. I might be underestimating it. I kind of hope I am, because it would be cool if this card was good. But I'm going to give this like a D. Now we have Raven Cairns out for Haunted Ridge. C, I guess C+, like that's fine. They're benching Crocha, which we'll get to in a second. Actually, we get to right now. Crocha out for Molten Collapse. I'm sad about this. I think Molten Collapse is a cool removal spell. I had nothing against this card, but Crocha is just epic. I love Crocha. I think it's a cool card. I think Escape is a great mechanic, especially for black decks that don't have tons of card advantage and that have lots of like sort of sacrifice, discard. Like it just plays well with your overall strategy. So I'm giving this like a D. This is a good, worthy of addition, but this is not the card they should have cut. I love both of these Rakdos cards. They're getting cut. Talisman of Indulgence out for Restless Vents. This is cool. I like that they're adding Manland. It also is a discard enabler for Reanimator decks, so I'll give this a B+. Kitchen Finks out for Renegade Rallier. Finks is bad. It's like an okay sideboard card, but not a good card. And Renegade Rallier is, I think, quite a bit better, actually. I think this card is not bad, so I'll give this like a B+. Night of Autumn out for Kasali Pridemage is interesting. I think I'm going to give this one a B-. No, actually, sorry, a C-. I think Night of Autumn is pretty sweet, actually. A great card, very flexible. Kasali Pridemage is kind of sweet, too, but not amazing. Exalted is good. Yeah, C-, fairly neutral in this. Sigarda, Font of Blessings. I thought this card was trash. I'm not sad to see this go. They brought in Porcelain, which is a card that I actually like. This overperformed for me in the Alpha Frog thing. It drew me like 5 cards multiple times. Very, very good with Natural Order. Okay in Reanimator. Somewhat hard castable. So yeah, solid change here, like B+ maybe. Talisman of Unity out for Celestial Sanctuary. B. Voice of Resurgence out for Avacyn's Pilgrim. Finally adding another green 1-drop. I'm happy to see that after the 2 cuts. I'll give this a C, like a B, maybe even B plus. Voice is not that good. And Absence Pilgrim is nice. Kinnan out for Bring to Light. I'll give this a B. Kinnan goes infinite with some things like Grim Monolith, or Basalt Monolith, but I think I'm happy to see Bring to Light. I think it's an interesting card. Another good payoff for these like 5-color decks. So yeah, I'll give that a B plus. Cruel Ultimatum coming out for Stormcarved Coast. B. Cruel Ultimatum is sweet. It's a savage card, but fixing is better. Inspired Ultimatum out for Netherland. B. Kenrith out for the Weatherseed Treaty. It's kind of a weird one. I kind of like Kenrith. This is basically like 3 mana plus 5/5 and trample all your stuff in the right deck. So maybe it is a good payoff for it. I'm kind of sad to see Kenrith go, but I think I will give this like a B still. Leovold coming out for Soul of Windgrace. Soul of Windgrace is kind of a savage. I think it's a cool card. I like the addition. Sad to see Leovold go, but they did bring in Hullbreacher, so maybe they just think they don't need too many ways to punish draw 7s. So yeah, I guess like a B minus. Mana Confluence out for Valakut. I'll give it a B. Valakut is going to be a card that's kind of hard to build around, but it's certainly powerful if you get there. So we'll give it a B and see how able you are to actually build around it. Sphinx of the Steel Wind out for Thopter Foundry. Good change. Sphinx of the Steel Wind sucks. I don't even get why it was in the format. It was like your Tinker decks and your Reanimator decks could play it in the sideboard sometimes, but you were never thrilled with it. Yeah, just not that great of a card. Versus Thopter Foundry, which is awesome. Gives you a cool build around combo. It's also kind of playable on its own. So I like this edition. Agatha Soul Cauldron out for Unlicensed Hearse. I'm going to give this a C minus. They both are decent as Graveyard Hate. This is a little bit better as pure Graveyard Hate. And it probably is better too as just a card. It can become a huge attacker. But Agatha Soul Cauldron is way more interesting. The build around potential here is sweet. I never got to do this, but I wanted to get like this Exile, Kiki Jiki, or Grizzlebrand or something. So I'm sad to see it go because I think this is more fun and interesting, but this is probably better. So once again, depends on how you prioritize it. City of Traders coming out for Shelldock Isle. B plus. City of Traders is okay in some situations, but I love Shelldock Isle. It should be back. Kaldra Complete out for Sword of the Meek. Another B plus. Kaldra's not that good. Even in certain Forge decks, it's not that exciting. At least in some matchups. And Sword of the Meek is like more interesting in conjunction with Thopter Foundry. Mindslaver out for Coveted Jewel. That's okay. Yeah, I'll give it a B. I think Coveted Jewel is a cool card. It does a lot more immediately. It's like kind of like the Monarch in some ways. Yeah, cool card. So solid B. I also just don't. There's some situations where it's very interesting with Mindslaver, but there's other times where it's just like pretty brutal. And it doesn't even do much a lot of the time. So happy to see this. Now we have Mirage Mirror out for Manifold Key. Weird change. Mirage Mirror sucks. I thought it was 2 mana and I still thought it was bad, and then I realized it was 3. You have to sink like 5 mana into this to copy something for 1 turn. I really don't get. I've never seen this card be that good. Manifold Key also not a card that's amazing, but it's okay. There's some synergies. I feel like there's probably something better they could have added, but I'll give it like a C plus, I guess. Kind of a situation with like an F cut and a D add, so slightly positive. Relic of Progenitus coming out for Soul Guide Lantern. C. I'm kind of neutral on this. Maybe even C minus. I think Relic is like a little cooler, but yeah, C minus. C. Very neutral. Solemn Simulacrum. That's a funny art. Coming out for Roaming Throne. I think this is a good addition. I'll give it a B. Roaming Throne is not like broken by any means, but it's a solid card, and Solemn hasn't been good for a while, or like, yeah, not amazing at least. Then finally, Ulamog coming out for Cityscape Leveler. C+, maybe even B-. They're both cool. They do similar things. This is cheaper, though, and it's better against, like, it's like cool. You can discard it and then bring it back for value later. So, slight upgrade. Overall, good changes. Yeah, so I guess I'll just quickly say some of the ones that I'm most and least excited about. the best. So I'm happy about the addition of more lands, whether it's bounce lands or man lands. I think they're a good addition. Like cutting some of the talismans for man lands is like a great change. I'm happy to see that. Next, I'm excited about Questing Druid over Light Up the Stage. I think Questing Druid is like interesting and like makes you more inclined to splash and just does like a lot of cool stuff. I think that's up in the green section, even though it's really, well, yeah, you know what it does, hopefully. If you don't, it's a cool card draw spell. Good upgrade. And then my favorite addition is Currency Converter. Currency Converter is just a sweet card, really overperformed. It looks kind of clunky to me, at least at first, but it does a lot. So very happy to see this addition. I'll be picking it pretty highly. I even think it's like borderline first pickable. It's like phenomenal in Reanimator, phenomenal with certain draw sevens, phenomenal with land cyclers, and just like a phenomenal with Urza Saga. Like you can just make tokens, and then like your Tolarian Academy becomes better and all that. And just like an okay value card in other decks too. So yeah, good cards there. Cards I'm not happy about. I think overall the cut of Splinter Twin stuff for Doomsday stuff is probably worse on power level and also less. The gameplay is just a little bit worse. Like holding up the twin combo and then like going for it in a turn and whatnot. Like they can interact with it with creature removal. Like you have the Spell Pierce. There's like a cool sub game there, whereas the Doomsday combo is a lot harder to interact with and also just like less consistent. So we'll see. I would love to be proven wrong about this, but I think that's not going to be quite as interesting, so I don't love that change. Then cutting Kroxa. I really like Kroxa. I think that like gives Black Red a real identity. Like without Kroxa, the identity is kind of like Black Red Reanimator, and this gives you like a real incentive to be like a Black Red sort of like semi-aggro, semi-control, like rock style deck, which is just like one of my favorite archetypes. I love that sort of deck. And so losing Kroxa really gives you less of an incentive to do that sort of thing. So I'm sad to see that go. And then finally, the worst cuts. Don't cut Arbor Elf and Utopia Sprawl and Derogatory Speaker. I really don't like that. That was one of the only things that made me play green. I was already skeptical on green, and then they just like cut it. I think the lands are like them trying to make lands matter stuff more reasonable is like a cool addition. But like exploration and fast bond is honestly already enough. I don't think they also need to play like add three more things to let you play additional lands. I could be proven wrong, but I don't like those changes. That's definitely my least favorite change of the format. Still though, overall, solid B. I think that this is like a good change overall. They added some cool stuff. They cut some of the like last remaining. There was like for a while there was a bunch of cards that were just pretty mediocre, and they cut a lot of them, and they kind of brought out the last few of those, in my opinion. Like Finale of Devastation, Elesh Norn, like some of these cards that really just like maybe even during tournament that are just like not that good, and like we're in there more for legacy reasons. So yeah, overall good changes. They did a good job with it. I have a few small quarrels. Don't love this, but like I like that they're shaking things up and trying things out, and they were pretty responsive to feedback too. So if people say they don't like something or they do like something, then I believe that they'll actually take that into consideration, which is always nice. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with anything, if you think some of these cards coming in are amazing or some of the ones coming out are terrible, or vice versa. Let me know if you agree that Elspeth Sun's Champion went too soon. Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.